The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Well, a growing backlash among some members of the law enforcement community. They say they will not uphold any gun control laws they find unconstitutional. Charleston, South Carolina Sheriff Al Cannon is one of those officials. He joins us live now. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Carol. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us. How would you characterize Dianne Feinstein's bill?
Scary. Very scary.
Why is that?
Well, because, and she says that over time it's her goal to eliminate certain types of weapons. I think that's very scary and a slippery slope. I've not seen the list of firearms that she has elaborated on, but I think that I personally believe that the provision in the Second Amendment is the final fail-safe, if you will. An armed society, if you read the Federalist Papers and study the Constitution, you'll see exactly why that is so important. And I believe that there is a goal to ultimately take as many firearms as possible. The differences between the firearms, more often than not, are cosmetic as to what is an assault weapon, that sort of thing.
Well, I think the senator's bill also includes guns that will remain legal, not just guns that will become illegal to own. And these 153 weapons she's talking about, she says, are assault-type weapons.
Well, and one of the reasons I got involved in this is because, you know, I think that to an extent I'm somewhat of a subject matter expert on this. I've dealt with gun violence and firearms and all my life, and at least my adult life. And another element that I strongly disagree with is the idea that somehow or another this is going to prevent the kind of violence that everybody's concerned about. I think there's some practical problems associated with things like the magazine capacity. But I will tell you that I think that much of this is taking advantage of our grief and people's general lack of information and understanding about firearms in general.
But here's the thing.
I think to an extent they're taking advantage of it.
Law enforcement, you, sir, are responsible for enforcing laws, not determining whether the laws are constitutional. So, you know, while some may respect your opinion,
police officers and that is my opinion, quite frankly. I am an attorney, by the way.
But you're also in charge of enforcing the laws on the books.
I would be meeting with the Attorney General to get guidance on that. So it's not as if I'm making a decision on my own. And I think that's an important responsibility we have. We take much of this for granted, but in the final analysis, police officers who are considered laypersons under the law make decisions every day as to whether, on constitutional issues, whether or not probable cause exists to arrest somebody. And they actually have discretion.
That would ban a certain kind of weapon. And if you went to the Attorney General and he says, look, you have to follow the law, this is constitutional, will you follow the law?
Then I'd probably follow it. Yes, I will probably follow it. But I will look closely at my own understanding of the Constitution, my own study, and we'll put that into context with what he and others say.
Well,
now, police have
provided
input. No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
You said you would listen to him, but then you would, like, make your own determination as an attorney. But you're the sheriff. You got to enforce the laws.
No. As a law enforcement officer, and we have an obligation, although it rarely comes into play, but we have an obligation to follow or enforce lawful laws, if you will, constitutional laws. It's very similar to the responsibility that the military member has to, on the one hand, obey orders, but he's also obligated not to follow unlawful orders. And it's left up to that individual to make that decision.
So it's left up to the individual to decide which laws are constitutional, and then maybe you decide to follow the law or not?
In the final analysis, because saying I was only following orders or I was only enforcing the law does not necessarily protect you from the ramifications of enforcing an unlawful order, or in this case, enforcing an unconstitutional law.
I don't believe many generals would really actually agree with you, because they want the soldiers to follow their orders. That's the way we fight in orderly war.
But they tell them, if you understand the military, and I have a military background, you are also obligated not to follow an unlawful order. They will tell you that. Any general that you talk to will tell you that.
Well, any general would say, I don't issue unlawful orders, at least I hope not. Well, let me ask you this. There is a petition.
Listen, on that point, Carol, there have been a number of allegations of sexual misconduct in the military here recently, and some of those involve taking advantage of rank, and in effect giving orders that were taking advantage of the rank separation. So that occurs. That's a serious problem.
Well, there was also a soldier recently kicked out of the military for not following orders because he found those orders unconstitutional. So there's an example of what can happen.
And there are ramifications. There are obviously ramifications.
Yes. There is a petition out right now calling for your resignation. So what do you say to those who don't agree with what you're saying today?
Well, I'm doing what I feel I am elected to do. I am elected with a very narrow range of responsibilities that have to do with public safety, law enforcement, and I'm not a robot. I'm supposed to think about what it is I do and point out to you. You've been talking about the NFL making statements. I remember then Senator Clinton screaming that she was tired of people saying that it was unpatriotic to criticize the president. All I've done is stood up and expressed my view of this very crucial part of the Second Amendment that I see in an instance of taking advantage of people's grief to pass things that in the final analysis are not in the best interest of the country, and the Second Amendment that is such an important part of protecting this republic.
Sheriff Al Cannon, Charleston County, South Carolina, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Carol.
Talk back question.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.